Right. It's September 23rd, 2025. It is 7 p.m. sharp. And we're going to go ahead and get started if we can have everybody take their seats. Town board meeting of the town of Estes Park is in session. Anyone who wants to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance with us may do so. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I didn't even give you time to get up, Frank. Agenda. Let's take a look at the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? I see none from town or trustees. I'll take a motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Trustee Youngland moved to approve. Trustee Hazelton seconded. We can vote. Yeah, you can. We can do it manually.
Starting with Eigel, is that a yay or a nay?
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Hurrah, yay.
Okay, we made it. The agenda is approved. We're into the public comments section. This is for public comments. There it came through. We ask that any public comments on quasi-judicial items be reserved for the appropriate public hearing. And this is for non-agenda items. Does any member of the public request to speak on a non-agenda items? Yes, sir. And as is typical, name, address, 3 minutes.
My name is Terry Rustin, 555B Devon Drive, Estes Park, Colorado. Mr. Mayor, trustees, I'm in favor of Citizens Initiative 300, which, if adopted, would give property owners a voice in proposed rezoning in their neighborhoods. Some of the rhetoric in opposition to Citizens Initiative 300 has been inaccurate and misleading. I speak specifically about public comments that adopting the initiative would lead inexorably to costly lawsuits against the town. The comments reference a 96-year-old legal case regarding a building permit in Seattle, Washington, known as Roberge 1928. When I was on the faculty at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, I encouraged students to express their opinions about issues and cases. I taught that in medicine, making an accurate diagnosis, determining effective treatment, and making a prognosis must be based on evidence, not assumptions or speculation. I told the students, in God we trust, all others must provide evidence. Evidence is also required in a court of law. I've been an expert witness many times, most often in death penalty mitigation cases in Texas. Expert witness testimony must be based on evidence, or as it is styled in Daubert, on facts or data. Is there evidence that adoption of this initiative will lead to costly lawsuits against the town based on Roberge 1928? I researched this question using publicly available sources in Colorado newspapers, legal discussions, court cases, and attorney websites. I looked for any cases in the last 97 years that used Roberge as a precedent in a successful challenge to rezoning ordinances such as Citizens Initiative 300. I did not find a single such case. As I told the students, in God we trust. All others must provide evidence. I encourage the voters in Estes Park to read the text of Citizens Initiative 300 and the comments made about it, and determine for yourself if evidence has been provided that the initiative will lead to costly lawsuits against the town. Or, as I maintain, the initiative will give you and your neighbors a voice in determining the character of your own neighborhood. Let us not replace evidence with conjecture in determining the future of Estes Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment for items not on the agenda?
Hi, I'm John Guffey, 561 Chapin Lane, Unit 2. And I simply want to ask the board to consider, as the leadership of the community, how Estes Park is to meet climate change. And as an energy effective outcome, as we consume more energy, whether it's carbon from petroleum or even wind and solar, requires a great deal of production and demand. It doesn't just come free. Some of it does, and we need to learn how to use that, which is more free and not so confined and articulated, like into the outlet, powering our cars. Those are all demands that must be met without yielding to the natural environment. And I think our ability to say we are working with nature to produce a community. And in our effort to follow a development code rewrite, how effective are we being in conserving and preserving the natural environment in which we live? It's not just a place for more people to occupy and to find a job and to wheedle and deal and engage in making money. That's our failure. We put money ahead of the environment. And every time we do that, we lose. We can't win. Humans cannot win in a battle against nature. And I think Estes Park is a leader and must demonstrate that leadership to pretty much everybody in our watershed, all the way down into the valley. So I'm just calling upon the board of Estes Park and the mayor to effectively guide this community toward a more conserving practice of living in harmony with nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, sir. All the way in the back.
Testing, testing. Hey, sorry I'm late, but there was an elk jam fest up at Devon and Peakview. There's probably 30 elk, and so that's why I'm running late. The big guy can probably give me a note. But I was thinking, we have somebody here goes to the mountain communities where
Sorry.
they.
Could you state your name and address,
Oh,
please?
sorry, Tom Kaczynski, 610 Devon Drive. But there's somebody on the board who represents Estes, and we go to these. We're part of a mountain communities somewhere where we meet with other towns. I've heard talk of some of the trustees going to different towns for discussions. And anyway, I was wondering, can you run it by some of those other towns in regards to what they are doing in regards to growth and handling manpower issues and housing, and what are some of these other communities? I hear Crested Butte is doing something, Gunnison's maybe doing something. What are some of these other towns doing to help solve this housing issue? Maybe we could learn from them if you had some feedback. Good night.
Thank you. Other public comment for items not on the agenda? Come on up, come on down.
I'm Laura Rustin, 555B Devon Drive. Is this on? Yes. Okay. This is, I don't like to speak. This is the most difficult speech that I have ever tried to make. So, please. At the September 9th, 2025 Town Board meeting, Trustee Bill Brown did not have any liaison reports to deliver. Instead, he announced that he had a story to tell. He has told that story before, and it has also appeared under his authorship in all of the local publications, although with different versions of his name as the author. Retelling an irrelevant story does not make it relevant. The 97-year-old case he regularly refers to, which is Washington Seattle Title Trust versus Roberge, is not about a zoning issue. It is about a building permit. Brown repeatedly raises the threat that the passage of the citizen initiatives would make the town vulnerable to expensive lawsuits in defense of the initiatives. This is an effort to scare Estes Park voters into being afraid to take an action to defend their own property rights. On a related note, Brown is now announced as the speaker at this coming weekend's Newcomers Club. The announcement of the meeting states that, quote, Bill doesn't intend to take any sides, but wants to explain the initiatives. I do not believe that is possible, given his public statements have made it clear that he has already taken sides. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment, items not on the agenda? Yes.
Christy Jacobs, 1655 Twin Drive, ditto what she just said.
Thank you. You're the record for brevity tonight. Other public comments? Yes.
Christine L. Poppet, 650 Devon Drive. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all staying warm. I will triple ditto what was said. Thank you. Excuse me, it was actually a double. I have more time, so I can say it. Correct myself. A double ditto to what was first said. Thank you.
Which makes a triple.
Excuse me?
Which makes a triple, so.
It does make it.
Other public comments, items not on the agenda. All right, we'll move forward. Our next item are town board comments and liaison reports. I have a couple comments to make. I wrote a note to Attorney General Weiser in regard to the approval of the Estes Park Health, UC Health acquisition. I was very glad to see that. Everybody knows I've been very active in encouraging that. And even most importantly, he hit the two things that were expressed by the community and me most vociferously as to making sure that the the special tax district dollars, the rights to that remain with the community. And also that the operational board that is formed would have a majority of Estes Park representation. So I think he found the two weakest areas of that agreement and addressed them, and very happy to see that agreement moving forward. And I know there's technicalities and steps that still have to happen, but it's really a great thing for our long-term medical continuity. And we all need long-term medical continuity, so I'm witness to that. The Bank of Estes Park had their 60-year anniversary, which I missed for other personal reasons, but I do want to congratulate them on that. I know they have been very strong in helping local small businesses. They've been very centered locally. During COVID, they were an extremely important part in helping some of the local merchants make it through with the federal funding and expediting that funding to keep doors open. And I understand that they currently, though this changes from time to time, they're currently, again, the majority deposit market share in Estes Park. So congratulations to them on that. So Scott Applegate and the Bank of Estes staff are to be commended. I work with all of our banks in town in different fashions and appreciate all of them. This one's just a pitching wedge away from my office, so I'm quite aware of them. Anyway, congratulations to them on 60 years. I want to make a comment last Friday. Two stellar long-term citizens left Estes Park. Bill and Sue Pinkham. Bill was mayor for 8 years, a little while ago, and they reached that point in life where they're moving back to family out east. And I know we've made comments up here before, but we just cannot overdo the praise for those two. I sat with them on the day before they were leaving and talked about their history, and Sue went through an awful lot of the stuff and all the great involvement in so many of the components of the culture and the park and Estes Park Town, and of course Bill, all of his time with the town board, and ultimately then he spent several years on the hospital board. So if you ever had a example other than Kent and Judy Smith for incredible public civic service, boy, that's those two, Bill and Sue. I think that wraps up my comments. Trustee Igo.
I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Lancaster.
I have no report.
Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
I have a short report. Just as a comment about the CAST, which is the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, I think I might have sent the gentleman the minutes, and if I haven't, I can. So if you'd like to email me, I can email you the link to the minutes to the CAST meetings, because that is what we talk about all the time. The housing in different places and what we do and what they do. We exchange ideas about the workforce and housing and childcare. Those are the main things we actually talk about recently. So if I haven't already, and I think I did, but if I hadn't, I can send you the link to the minutes, those for sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Youngland.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple things. I want to again remind everybody that the Sister Cities delegation from Monteverde, Costa Rica, will be arriving on Sunday. And on October 3rd, we are going to have their annual Sister Cities annual meeting, and it will be held at the museum at about 5 o'clock. And there you can meet the delegates, learn more about the sister cities, and also the signing of our agreement. The mayor will be there for that, and that will all take place on the annual meeting on the 3rd. So I encourage all the the citizens to come out for that and learn a little bit more about Sister Cities. It's a great organization that we have here in town. The other thing, I am a liaison to the ROAC, which is the Regional Opioid Abatement Council for Larimer County. And we will be meeting Thursday for that monthly meeting. But the Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally, I always goof that name up a little bit. She and I met at the Harmony Addiction Treatment Facility out on Fall River Road last week, and we got to tour that, and it was a very informative meeting, great facility, got to ask questions, because she also sits with me on the Opioid Abatement Council. And so that was a nice opportunity that they took the time to answer a lot of our questions and give us a nice tour. So that's all I have.
Thank you. With Monteverde, it's kind of like renewing our vows, right?
Yeah.
Trustee Hazelton.
A few things tonight. For Visit Estes Park, we have a board meeting this coming Thursday. I've mentioned this before, but we have been reviewing the draft operating plan for 2026. And we are expected for the board to vote on approving that on Thursday before it'll come to the town board and then the county as well. So we'll have a joint session for that, but it starts with the Visit Estes Park Board. So there are several larger agenda items, but that's probably the main one. And happy to share that operating plan with folks. It's been published for a number of weeks now, but if folks want to take a peek at it, please give me a shout. I'm happy to share that with you. Visit Estes Park is also hosting a roundtable on Tuesday morning, September 30th at 10:30 up at the Stanley Pavilion. They'll have some representatives here from Visit Boulder and Sundance to talk about what that move will look like and what we might be able to expect or what we can start thinking about. And it also is a great time to get FaceTime with the Visit Estes Park staff. I had a great question from the public today about if that is open to all, and it certainly is. So please feel free to come and join that. Again, that's Tuesday morning, 10:30 to noon. My last thing for Visit Estes Park is that on October 1st, the board will be interviewing the 2 finalists for the permanent CEO position. That position has been vacant for over a year now, so we're looking forward to that. Those interviews will be available for people to participate in or to listen in public or in person, as well as virtually. So if you'd like to listen in, that'll be streamed or you can stop by. It'll be at the Holiday Inn, which is so weird to go back to calling it the Holiday Inn. It catches me always. And then there will be an opportunity for a public meet and greet that afternoon as well. Again, that's October 1st. I expect a press release will be coming very shortly, so you don't have to remember everything that I'm sharing. But if you're interested in that, I really encourage folks to be involved. That's such a public and important position in our community, and want to make sure we have input from local stakeholders. And then for restorative justice, community conversations coming up about the development code update. There will be 2, one on October 9th and one on October 15th. Both are at 5:30, from 5:30 to 8 in the high school commons. Dinner, childcare, interpretation services, all provided. And they're the same thing, so you don't have to come to both, pick one to come to, but it's small group discussions where we start to, I would be there as a participant, but where restorative justice, along with the library, will be facilitating, discussions about the really challenging issues we're coming up against when we talk about this development code update. So it's a great opportunity to kind of debate those and talk about your values and see how they match up against your neighbor's values and understand how all that feedback is going to work its way into this update. All the notes from that will be part of the process that Design Workshop is completing for that update. So really valuable stuff. Please attend. Registration is required, and I believe in all the papers on Friday, there's going to be QR codes and the bit.ly link. So look for those and please sign up and attend. And then finally, I always just, it warms my heart to see people take a Tuesday night to come out and to be civically engaged. And so it's nice to see everyone here. And I also wanted to say that it's very nice to see Audrey and Judy up here, because if you've been to a town board meeting before, you knew that Kent and Judy are staples in that row. And so it's great to see Audrey there as well, and just warms my heart. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
Well, ditto to that last part. Very much appreciate the Smith family and all they've contributed to this community. It's been awesome. So I've been busy the last month on various town matters, other than making myself a target, as I obviously have. I've been involved in a number of things in my duties as town trustee. So as you know, I'm a liaison to the Housing Authority. I had a meeting on September 10th, at which time there was a beginning of a discussion of a change in which the relationship between the town and the Housing Authority might proceed with respect to the property on Stanley Circle Drive owned by the town. That has been discussed for town workforce housing, for town employee workforce housing. In any event, it's preliminary at this point. There was some public discussion about that. It's probably the most interesting thing that happened there. I went to the Bank of Estes 60th anniversary as well. In addition, participated in the Constitution Day event that we held down at Hicks Plaza on the 17th. You know, we had people milling around there. It was nice to have discussion of issues of importance to people that are involved in the community. It was, the mayor was there, made his proclamation like he did at the last town board meeting. Appreciate that, Mayor. And I did make a comment about the citizen-initiated ordinance. I only identified what they were. I was expecting, frankly, some voices to be raised at that, but they were not. So that was sort of disappointing because that was intended to be a forum in which people could participate civilly with respect to their disagreements. So, be that as it may, that's what happened on the 17th. Town board had a long budget meeting on the 18th. I think 4.5 hours. I attended there'll be another one on October 3rd. I really encourage people to participate. It'll be all morning again, long meeting, lots to cover. And then on the 20th, went to the Development Code open house, 30 people over at the middle school. So a couple things that are coming up. Frank Lancaster and I, Trustee Lancaster and I are doing interviews for the open position on the Housing Authority on Wednesday and Friday. And then, oh, I'm sorry, it was Trustee Eigel, right, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, you've been gone so long, you know, we could have assigned you things. Anyway, no, Trustee Eigel and I, but on Thursday, Trustee Lancaster and I are having a trustee talk, so just confuse those two. So I do have some thoughts and opinions on these citizen-initiated ordinances. You're going to hear it from me. I don't think it's inappropriate for me to express an opinion on this. It's a political matter in front of the electorate. I intend to continue to discuss these things. And had I not so much on my list, I probably would have talked more about those issues. But tonight, I will not. Thank you.
Thank you. And in the park on Constitution Day, they had chalk where you could write on the sidewalk. And I will point out that if you walked by, you might have seen my comment on there.
Not anymore. It's been read.
Well, yeah, of course. Maybe I'll write it again repeatedly. Violence is not the answer. So we'll move on to the town administrator report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. First, on behalf of Town Administrator Mahalik, I wanted to report compliance on policy governance monitoring policy 3.8, which covers compensation and benefits. And I'm pleased to report compliance in every area of that policy. And then secondly, since we did not have a study session, I wanted to check in with the town board on a number of study session items that we would like to add for the remainder of the year. Not that it'll be all, but this is what we have for now. First, parking and transit year-end review, and we're looking at December 9th for that one. Development code update with a focus on commercial design guidelines for November 12th. An additional development code update focused on housing and residential housing typologies on December 9th. Another one for November 12th is downtown Estes Loop traffic study results. And then one we haven't picked a date for yet. That'll go on approved unscheduled if you approve it, is addressing housing needs for town employees. And part of that will address the item that Trustee Brown brought up earlier about 179 Stanley. And then finally, wanted to make an update to the agenda for the Joint Planning Commission Town Board meeting next week. We hope to replace the second agenda item that I had asked about a couple of meetings ago, adding the focus was the missing middle. We're going to move that to be part of a larger housing-focused study session, and we want to replace that with a discussion on development review regulations and process.
All good. I see no objections.
Yes, the irony of not having a study session tonight is that we're going to have long ones for the remainder of the year, likely. Thank you.
All right, we'll
Mayor?
move. Yes.
I'd like to, and I talked to Dan Kramer about this, have some discussion, either in a discussion section or a study session about noise because of a recent Colorado Supreme Court case that came out that kind of puts our role in question as to how we deal with this. So,
And Mayor and Board, if we did that, we just need to figure out whether it's an executive session or an open session, and that might impact just exactly how I put the presentation together.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, so I'll take that as approval of having that discussion in one shape or form, whether it's a study session or an executive session. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll move on to the consent agenda. It's a bit longish, but as is proper, I will read it all into the public record. Item 1, expenditure approval list, bills. Item 2, town board meeting and study session minutes dated September 9th, 2025. Item 3, joint town board and Estes Park School District Board of Education study session minutes dated September 9, 2025. Item 4, Estes Park Planning Commission minutes dated June 17th, acknowledgement only. Item 5, Resolution 8625, amended MOU with Estes Park Housing Authority funding for fish hatchery workforce housing. Item 6, Resolution 8725, professional services agreement and construction contract with High Plains Excavation and Aggregate LLP for the Performance Park Bridge replacement, $404,964 budgeted. Item 7, Resolution 8825, professional services contract with AE2S for Water Master Plan support and Phase 1 water rate study, $160,000 budgeted. And item 8, acceptance of town administrator policy governance monitoring report. Does any member of the public or the town board request to have an item removed from the consent agenda?
Mayor, would you remove number 5?
Number 5, Resolution 8625. We'll pull that. Any others? Seeing none, I'll take a motion for the consent agenda minus item 5.
Mayor, so moved.
Second the motion.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve the consent agenda minus item 5. Trustee Idle seconded, and we can vote. I think I saw a lot of green, but it flashed by really fast. Is that what you see, Sarah? It looked to me like it was all green, but it went by in like half a second. Do we need to go to roll call again? All right, I will start with Trustee Eigel.
Aye.
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 All right, unanimous. We'll now move to item 5, which was removed. Resolution 8625, the amended memo of understanding with the Estes Park Housing Authority funding for fish hatchery workforce housing. And we'll first entertain comments from Manager Bangs.
All right, good evening. As your memo states in the consent agenda packet, in April of 2024, we went into an MOU with Estes Park Housing Authority, identifying them as the recipient of ARPA grant funds that we received, a sub-grantee of funds that we received from Larimer County to develop the fish hatchery workforce housing development. Since then, and earlier this year, we updated our agreement with Larimer County once we identified that those funds weren't actually ARPA funds. So we already have the $2 million that we received in funding from Larimer County, but we're updating our MOU between the town and the Housing Authority, removing any language regarding ARPA funds. I think Attorney Kramer may have some more clarification if there's additional questions with that. But again, we've already updated our MOU with Larimer County, and this is just continuing that process to update our MOU as a sub-grantee to the Housing Authority.
Thank you. Director Moulton, do you have additional comments?
Not unless there's questions.
Town Board, Trustee Brown.
Yeah, I'm glad Trustee Eigel pulled this from the consent agenda because
It was
this is an
expected.
important, it's an important thing to have out in the public as much
Sure.
as possible. And would it be correct to state that the change in the MOU actually simply removes restrictions on compliance that we otherwise would have?
ARPA funds has a number of regulations that we would have to go through that are really costly. And so once we started having that conversation with Larimer County about what that would look like, that's when we found out that they weren't actually ARPA funds. When they're like, oh, you don't have to do that. We're like, wait a second.
That's great.
So that's why we were able to update that language between us and Larimer County. And then now it's going to allow us to utilize those funds more efficiently in actual project work.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Another change is that we extended the deadline.
Oh, yeah.
We still have milestones with the county that we're adhering to. That was submitted with the change in our MOU with Larimer County. So it allows us a little bit more time to do some due diligence in developing that property.
Thank you.
Trustee Eigel.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. It was, things catch my eye when they're on the consent agenda when they're $2 million.
Sure.
160 was a little bit, and 400 on another item, but those were pretty well laid out and expected. Although this may be expected, this is something that is developing, and the transparency on issues with the Housing Authority, the workforce, all of this, the tax you don't have to pay. I think we've got to keep this at the forefront and not. The consent agenda oftentimes feels like things are being tucked in and passed through. And so as a taxpayer, I've seen that for years and years and years. Sitting here tonight, I'm going to call it out every time something is this big. So when you said I kind of expected it, I thought, well, why is it on the consent agenda? So all town departments be forewarned that it's very important to have these conversations in public. I do have several questions about this issue. My understanding of this is that the requirements of ARPA or the initial request through a grant for these funds had tighter restrictions than will be if we, or actually there are less restrictions now, but our MOU kind of holds us to the original restrictions.
Yes.
Is that a bad thing?
It's in the spirit of the ARPA grant, and it's the intention that we have the similar outcomes.
If this does not pass tonight, if there is no revision to the MOU, what's the negative impact to the Housing Authority?
I'll let Scott answer
I
that.
know he's practiced answer, I know.
No,
I know you do.
actually.
Well, you're so well-versed in every aspect of this, I know that you're gonna have a good answer.
So if we were removed as a sub-grantee for the Larimer County funds that were dedicated to the development of fish hatchery, the monies that have already been spent, that EPHA has been floating or spending on behalf of those funds, would have to come out of 6E.
So
Trustee
you're
Eigel.
saying these funds would not be available to you at all?
Well, I took your question to mean if this did not pass this evening, meaning if we were removed as a sub-grantee, the expenditures we've already incurred, exploring the development opportunities at fish hatchery as directed by this body, would have to most likely come out of 6E.
Can't you submit that documentation that you would be reimbursed for those expenditures? Isn't that the way it was originally set up?
6E
Reimbursement?
If 6E was paying for, are you referring to
The
Larimer County
$1.8 million
funds?
that we're talking about, my understanding of this, correct me if I'm probably wrong, is that we're switching from, instead of you, the Housing Authority, being reimbursed with proper documentation and formalities and restrictions on the use of the funds, it would be a reimbursement basis the way it stands today. And if this is approved, you would be paid $1.8 million, the Housing Authority, and then you would have the ability to spend that within the confines of this agreement, as I understand it?
It simplifies the administrative burden, that's it. The requirements are still the same. Our requirements for
Okay.
documentation, submittal of invoices, all of that remains the exact same. This
Okay.
is simply transferring the money to us, allowing us to get rid of an administrative burden, which was the initial intent once we learned it wasn't part of ARPA funds. It gets rid of an extreme amount of reporting requirements that turns out weren't actually necessary. But the spirit, as Manager Bangs already said, the spirit of the MOU, the particulars of the MOU are all remain in place.
Trustee Eigel, this might help.
Yeah.
The restrictions that I'm aware of on the expenditure of ARPA funds as they would relate to this project are not substantive, they're procedural. And we sat in a meeting, this was probably a year and a half ago now, where we started going through all of the accounting procedures that would need to be followed. I'm not an accountant. It sounded extremely burdensome. We would need to get someone from the finance department to help explain that if you wanted to go into more detail on that. But the project qualifies under ARPA. It's not that the project wouldn't qualify. It's that the reimbursement procedures were onerous. And when we heard from the county that we didn't need to spend the time and money to go through that, that's when we started moving toward making this change. It's for the reason that there were other changes that needed to happen on the county IGA level, it's taken a while to get here. But that's what spurred this.
I am all in favor of cutting red tape and cutting accounting procedures and processes. So I'm in favor of being efficient, especially with government money. So I would support it on that front. Do you anticipate that these funds, once transferred to the Housing Authority, would be used for anything other than what's laid out in the original grant or what these are supposed to be used for?
No.
While they're sitting in an account, will they be used for anything else that they may not be available in the future?
No, they cannot.
And so they can't be. So they'll be deposited into an account that will be then supported by,
There's already a separate bank account established for these funds
Okay.
specifically.
okay. Let me scratch through here. I think that you've answered my questions, and I appreciate that you took the time to do that. Thanks.
And
thank
Trustee
you, Attorney
Eigel,
Crane.
I appreciate the questions. The decision to put that on the consent agenda was mine, so I'll take the blame for that. It was clearly a regrettable decision. The reason I made the decision to put it on consent was because I thought it was fairly innocuous. We were changing the nature of the administration of the funds and would still have all the same levels of scrutiny and accountability. In my mind, really, the main advantage in my mind is the lack of reporting the change in the rigor of the reporting requirements, and we have more time to spend the money. We don't have the same shot clock that the ARPA funds did. So, but
And I appreciate that, but I want to call out the opportunity that we have too as this body to have this conversation in public, that this is on the record, that those details and those commitments are in front of these people who elected us to be the safeguard that these funds are spent properly. And so I think that conversation in public is appropriate, and I appreciate you explaining how that went down.
Trustee Brown.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Eigel. This is something that should be in public because land use decisions and land use related stuff it's the highest interest of any community member, really. And so because it's a high profile land use thing, I think that even if it weren't $2 million, maybe we should have a discussion about it. So just for future reference.
Thank you for that feedback. We'll definitely take that into account as we move forward on any land use and housing and 60 funds. Yep.
All that said, do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd so move for the approval of Resolution 8625.
I second.
Trustee Eigel moved to approve, and Trustee Brown seconded. We can move to a vote. Okay.
Aye.
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 Unanimous, and we'll move forward. Thank you all. The next item is a public hearing for Resolution 8925 Coyote Run Subdivision, second filing, preliminary plat, CMS Planning and Development, Inc., Frank Tice, owner applicant, Habitat for Humanity of the St. Vrain Valley applicant. At this hearing, the Board of Trustees shall consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, from the applicant, public comment, and written comments received on the application. Has any trustee had any ex parte communication concerning this application which are not part of the board packet? I see none. Any member of the board may ask questions at any stage of the public hearing, and this public hearing's open. We'll listen to the staff report from Senior Planner Hornbeck.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. The Coyote Run subdivision was originally approved by Town Board in 2024 and created 4 lots. Lots 1 through 3 are approximately 1 acre in size and are served by a private drive. Lot 4, which is approximately 4.5 acres in size, is now proposed to be subdivided to create 12 lots. Can we get the PowerPoint? Thank you. Lot 4 was rezoned by the board in June of this year from E1 Estate to R Residential. That application included a conceptual subdivision plat and a commitment from the applicants to deed restrict 8 of the proposed lots as attainable to households earning no more than 80% of the area median income. The site is moderately sloped. Grades are around 10% on average. It is located outside all mapped hazard areas, flood, fire, and geologic. It is within an important wildlife habitat area per the 96 comp plan as a high-use area for deer. The request tonight is for approval of a preliminary subdivision plat to create a 12-lot subdivision. The proposed lots range in size from approximately 9,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet. There is an open space outlot of approximately 30,000 square feet. Access is proposed to 11 of the lots from a new street, which would align with the existing twin drive and terminates in a cul-de-sac. Access to the other lot, which is lot 4, would be the existing private drive built with the earlier phase of the subdivision. Sheet 2 of the plat depicts existing conditions and proposed lots and improvements. And Sheet 3 depicts grading, drainage, and erosion control. Advantages of the proposal. All lots meet applicable minimum standards for the R zone district, including minimum lot size. The proposed net density equates to approximately 3 units per acre in compliance with a maximum of 4. The proposed subdivision is consistent with the Estes Forward Comprehensive Plan. There are no mapped geologic or wildfire hazard areas identified. The offsite utilities and services have received no objections to proposed subdivision from service providers. The applicant submitted a preliminary drainage report, as well as grading, drainage, and erosion control plans. Public Works has provided direction on updates required as part of the construction plans with the, and final drainage report to be reviewed with the final subdivision plat. The proposed subdivision will be for single-family residential, consistent with surrounding uses. Public improvements will be secured as required by the code. Compliance with zone district standards. The code requires the layout of lots, driveways, utilities, drainage facilities be designed in a manner that minimizes land disturbance, maximizes the amount of open space, and preserves existing trees and vegetation. There will, of course, be some land disturbance necessary for construction. The proposed road and detention pond do appear to minimize, to the greatest extent possible, the necessary land disturbance. The minimum 15% open area is provided, and existing significant trees are identified on the plans, and the final construction plans will need to indicate if any of those are proposed for removal. Onto streets, traffic study was provided and found that the subdivision does not warrant improvements such as turn lanes. Public Works has reviewed the traffic study with no adverse findings. The street design is consistent with the standards in the code. Public Works did receive a waiver request to waive the requirement for curb and gutter along Peakview Drive. That request was reviewed, and Public Works denied that request, so curb and gutter will be required. Sidewalks, pedestrian connections, and trails are in compliance with code requirements. There will be a sidewalk along the new internal street, as well as a pedestrian connection from the cul-de-sac to the open space area. The first filing of the subdivision required a 10-foot wide concrete trail to be built. That is still a requirement, and there was a 2-year shot clock for that to be completed, and that would obviously serve this filing as well. Habitat protection, the final plat will require a landscape plan to confirm that there are no non-native landscape species proposed. There are also limitations on fencing. However, no fencing is proposed. The private open area, there's a 15% requirement. The outlot includes a detention pond, trail, and benches. Detention ponds may count towards that private open area as a passive recreation area. With the final plat, a landscape plan will be needed to confirm compliance with the intent of the code, those illustrations showing the desire for a more naturalized amenity rather than a concrete square that's fenced off. The application is also consistent with the rezoning application, which had some conditions. The subdivision plat is in general conformance with the access, open space, lot size, and layout depicted on the conceptual plat. Execution of a deed restriction to restrict 8 of the lots as affordable was a requirement as well. That deed is fully executed and pending recordation with the county. No disadvantages have been identified. Planning Commission forwarded to Town Board a recommendation to approve the preliminary plat, subject to the following conditions. All outstanding staff and referral agency comments shall be addressed, including the final plat shall include a landscape plan to demonstrate conformance with the development code requirements regarding the detention pond. And lots 1 through 2 and 7 through 12 shall be subject to an amended deed restriction recorded with the final subdivision plat. The purpose there is to reflect the actual lots once they are created by the final plat that are subject to the deed restriction and remove the deed restriction from the lots that it does not apply to. Public notice was provided in accordance with code requirements. At the writing of this memo, of the memo, there were no public comments received. However, numerous comments have since been received and are included in the packet materials. Sample resolutions provided for your reference, and that concludes my presentation.
Are there any conditions for approval that are not in that report?
No.
Does the applicant make a presentation? Do we have any presentation to be made? Or are we sufficient with staff report?
He indicated
okay.
No.
I'll go to public comment first. Any person will be given an opportunity to address the board concerning the application. All individuals must state name and address for the record, 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone who wants to make a comment on this item? Yes.
Christy Jacob, 1655 Twin Drive. I submitted a more detailed letter earlier today to the town for the town board packet. Please refer to that for additional background and in-depth concerns. I'm here tonight to speak about our deep concerns regarding the stormwater drainage plan and the impacts this plan, along with the larger watershed above the subdivision, will have to properties downstream. Many of us who own property downstream from Coyote Phase 1 and 2, Filings 1 and 2, as well as within the broader watershed, including Prospect Mountain, are very concerned about the stormwater impacts. While I cannot speak on behalf of others, I can share that the ditch along the southwest side of Twin Drive will face additional strain from the combined runoff, putting the drainage system at greater risk of erosion, flooding, and damage to the nearby properties. Twin Drive already has erosion and sediment issues now. My note takeaways from the Planning Commission meeting on September 16th. 1, per Jessica Waters, Development Review Engineer with Public Works Department, runoff from the first filing Phase 1 Coyote Run subdivision drains down to Peakview Ditch, flows east to an existing 18-inch corrugated metal pipe, which passes under Peakview, and the outflow continues into the ditch along southwest side of Twin Drive. This first filing Phase 1 subdivision development does not drain to the detention pond. Commissioner Arterburn asked Ms. Waters, so that's away from the Twin Drive? She replies, yes. Though Phase 1 is not close to Twin Drive, the stormwater runoff does flow to Twin Drive ditch, per Ms. Waters. Per Ms. Waters, the capacity of the 18-inch pipe was adequate to handle the increased flow from the Phase 1 subdivision first filing, so that exists independently. Let's see. So lots 11 and 12 of the preliminary Phase 2 second filing, some of those lots, those 2 lots will not reach the detention pond, but will drain to Peakview Ditch and flows to that 18-inch pipe, passes under Peakview to Twin. I'm not sure if any runoff will go to the detention pond of these 2 lots. Lot 4 will have a driveway onto the private drive of Long's Drive, which is already shared with a Phase 1 3 1-acre lots or properties. This increases impervious surface and runoff to the same 18-inch pipe. The retention pond will release out, again, to Twin Drive. While the 18-inch pipe may have been judged adequate during the first filing, the analysis treated the filings as separate. In reality, water runoff does not treat them independently. All flows combine, increasing the pressure on Twin Drive's ditch system. Even Ms. Waters confirmed that the first filing to the west does not drain to the detention pond, but drains to Peakview and under Peakview to Twin.
And Christy, we're at 3 minutes. Do you
Okay.
have a conclusion?
My husband and I oppose the resolution 8925, the reasons we have stated in many previous emails and meetings. And there is one more thing. There was a drainage update required for the drainage for the final plat. What are those required updates and how do they address downstream impacts?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other public comments on this item? Yes, sir.
John Thornsberry, 1724 Decker Circle. I did also give you a detailed information in a letter and also pictures that you can look at regarding the things I will speak about tonight. Mayor and Board of Trustees, good evening. My wife and I are opposed to this resolution, 8925, that is before you this evening. And there are a number of valid and concerning reasons that I come before you this evening about, many of which have been clearly and definitely articulated by many others at previous meetings in the last couple of weeks and months. This evening, I come before you with clear concerns regarding the stormwater drainage plan and the effects such a plan would have on those individuals and properties that are below this planned subdivision. After looking at the current drainage for the property above those properties on the east side of Decker Circle, it was clear that the current drainage was causing significant problems to the property located at 1720 Decker Circle. That is a picture. You have a picture of that in your packet. The drainage pipe was causing a major and significant erosion problem. The flow of the water continues down into other properties on the east side of Decker Circle as well. Again, I have attached photos for your examination. If this is what is to happen with the current status of the property, how much more damage will be done to the properties on East Decker Circle when the current planned subdivision has been built? The probable expanded erosion brings significant and very deep concerns to all those who live on Decker Circle. Concerns and questions. With the location of the water detention and retention basin, the extension of Twin Drive into the new subdivision, and the location of the existing water ditches and the slope of the terrain, please explain how the water is to retain and detain with flow to the west of that subdivision. What is the proposed route for that water in the retaining basin to flow west, and will that water flow to the pipe at the end of the southern ditch along Peakview and ultimately into the properties lining the eastern side of Decker Circle? What portion of the total development, including water released by the basin, will be released toward that pipe and thus into the properties lining the east side of Decker Circle, Twin Drive, and the existing Longs Drive? Given the already serious erosion problem caused by the runoff prior to any development, how can this body and the town development staff guarantee that no future damage will occur? If there is a future damage, or if there is future damage from the possible runoff from the new subdivision, will this town be financially responsible for such damage that would occur to the properties on the east side of Decker Circle? In closing, after reviewing the many emails and public responses sent to this body regarding this specific development over the past several months, and I read all of them, I cannot understand how we have arrived at this point in the process. From the clear misreading of the current development code to the ecological damage it will do to that part of the valley, we already had elk and deer there tonight, and they are there constantly. They will not be there with this development.
I'll need a conclusion.
As well as the sudden change in direction of the approving first application in 2023. Again, I clearly do not understand. In closing, over 1,800 tax-paying individuals have opposed this development from the very start. And when that happens, something much more vital and important has been broken and damaged. The trust that has been placed with those who were duly elected to represent those individuals. I urge you to vote no.
Comments.
Thank you.
Do we have other public comments on this item?
My name's Larry Bader, 540 Devon Drive. I oppose the resolution 8925. Only 2% of the world's population lives at 8,000 feet and above. Still, we have lawmakers, corporate developers, housing authorities, and tax-deductible organizations with millions of dollars at their disposal who are forcing unwanted changes upon Estes Park citizens in the name of affordable and/or attainable housing. It's unrealistic to expect Estes Park to be able to provide the services for affordable housing and lower living expenses that are available at lower elevations. The lifeblood of Estes Park is environmentally based tourism. Estes Park visitors' concerns are mostly the weather, wildlife viewing, mountain scenery, and hiking. As such, the town's top priority should be to protect and preserve our fragile, high-altitude environment and mountainscape. I believe the town's board's decision to approve the rezoning request to be erroneous. During board discussion, there were several opinions and interpretations of existing development code. One or two board members seemed unfamiliar with the neighborhood, relying on aerial mock-up view of rooftops to compare existing home density to proposed development's home density before making their decision to approve the rezoning request. The proposed development by no stretch of the imagination conforms with the established neighborhood and will forever change the character of the entire neighborhood. Differences with the existing neighborhood include lack of open space with buildings in closer proximity to Peakview Drive, resulting in changes to wildlife migration patterns and additional roadkill. Limited access, owner access with congested parking, modular style construction, deed restricted housing, subsidized housing. Excessive build time stated to take as long as 10 years to complete. Questionable if an HOA will be established. No open space acres set aside as was previously required for rezoning in the area. Thousands of signatures and hundreds of pages written by constituents in opposition to this plan, apparently to no avail. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments on this item?
John Guffey, 561 Chapin Lane, over on the north side. I just want to preface my statement by saying that I have a neighbor who lived just south of me who cut down 90% of his trees and dug the soil out of his property to build a garage, which never got built. I asked the previous community development director if there was any regulation against cutting trees, and she said, no, I wish there was. We just can't control that. If people own the property, they own the trees, they can do what they feel is essential. So to build a garage, which was never built, he sold the property. A new landowner is trying to figure out how to reclaim this land, which has been pretty much destroyed, shipped out. But the pictures that were shown of this property that's on this resolution are beautiful. And there's grass, there's a few trees, it's a hillside, 10%, whatever that grade is, evidently that can be controlled by massive cutting and carving and shaping. We can reshape the world, you know, we can cut holes and make mountains, but we can't hold the natural creation that we have been given by our own right. It's there, it's part of nature. And for a community to say, oh, we need more of this and we need more of that, and by our volition, we can vote, we can make this happen. I think we have to think about, is climate change real? Yes, it's real. Is it affected by human development? Yes. By driving cars? Yes. Building roads? Yes. Building houses? Yes. Going to the grocery store? Yes. All of these things that we do as humans are damaging our ecosystem because we're not living in harmony. And if we think we can build more and more and more and accommodate human interests over what is already here, we're on the wrong track. That was a well-done presentation by Mr. Hornbeck, and I was going, check, check, check. He hit all the bases. He covered all the ground. It's not worth it, though. I would vote no for this resolution.
Thank you. I'll remind public comment, stick to the application. Are there other public comments regarding this? Okay.
Steve Wendy, 641 Longs Drive. I've been to several of the focused conversations this summer. Really appreciate the social justice, restorative justice group putting them on and the way they handle them. I just really have a question. And all of them, when people are asked what do they value most about Estes Park, either one or two is the wildlife. This is a major conduit for deer. It is only a few numbers short of being a major conduit for elk. That's why some of us had trouble getting here tonight. They're all over. It's wonderful. That's item number 1 or 2 of the reason people live here and visit. My question is, how did the staff decide that a blockade of houses is not going to negatively impact the movement of the wildlife? And what happens to a town that I think all of us love if the wildlife decides to move down the hill, Allen's Park, somewhere like that? the suggestion was made at the meeting where the vote was taken several months ago that, hey, we work together with the developer to come up with a solution. We haven't done that. It's our fault. Haven't met with anybody, because the best we could do was put up a sign that said detour and try to teach the deer to read it. We didn't think that would work. When you put this much concrete, this many houses there, comment was made at the last session that this is all about views and losing money on homes. Not for me. I'm not going to lose anything. I'm far enough away from this, and it won't affect our view. And frankly, I care enough about affordable housing that if I did lose something, that'd be okay. I did move here to a great extent for the wildlife. And I'm not a tree hugger, and I'm not crazy. But I want to ask, how did the staff decide that this is a manageable situation and will not adversely one of the most, if not the most important aspect of the community life? Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Since I'm dittoing, I'd just like to ditto the end of Mr. Wendy's speech. I did reach out, and on June 4th, I met with Melissa Westover and the moderator attorney, Jim Carr, hoping to meet with Frank Tice, the developer, as well regarding this. Again, June 4th, before the meeting on June 24th, and the developer declined. So I did try. Christine Poppett, 650 Devon Drive. I am in fervent opposition, excuse me. I will calm down. Bill, I'm not attacking you. On record. I might someday, but not today. Just teasing. I won't attack people. I hope you guys realize that. And I'm extremely nervous. I'm in fervent opposition to Resolution 8925. I believe I've made that known over the past 3 years that I'm opposed. I am saddened, deeply saddened, that I have had to spend the last almost 3 years defending existing zoning on my property. I'm also saddened that so many others have had to do the same. I am very concerned, referring back to Ordinance 08-25, which was when you approved the rezoning, which was passed on the 24th of June. The terms of this ordinance, which I was informed today were written by Town Attorney Kramer, state, obviously not in its entirety, quote, "The deed restriction must be finally executed by all its parties within 60 days of the effective date of this ordinance, or the zoning amendment shall lapse and the subject property shall return automatically to E1 zoning." End quote. Per the staff report today, that is 2 days from today. As my online public comment stated, I believe a decision by you this evening would be building a roof before the house. That's a pun intended. I didn't want to use putting the cart before the horse. How can you, as elected officials of the citizens of the town of Estes Park, make a decision when the deed restrictions that are required are not yet in place? Have you seen them, reviewed them, agreed upon them? The town staff report also states in quotes, as of the writing of this, and if you refer to the bottom of page 200 and the top of page 201, this is what I'm reading. As of this writing, as master deed restriction is being developed for the subject property for recording by that deadline. However, since the 8 lots will not formally exist until recording of the final plat, that deed restriction will need to be amended concurrently with recording of the final plat to specify its applicability only to the subject 8 lots, end quote. This is an example of racing things through. The terms, the dates, the deadlines drafted by Town Attorney Kramer or whoever for that matter are clear. There are legal terms, absolute or substantive, as Town Attorney Kramer referred to earlier. In layman's terms, that's final or shall. There are still so many unanswered questions about this resolution and about this property this evening that may not be answered by the hearing for the final plat. Given that the ordinance was just drafted prior to the 624 Town Board meeting where you made your decision, isn't it reasonable to presume that the drafters were aware of the current common practice and reflected it in the ordinance's expectations and deadlines? After all, a window of 90 or 120 days could have been written in order to ensure that what went before you was in its proper form.
Christine,
Remember,
I'll need a summary.
are you kidding me? Okay, a really fast one. Remember all along that the applicant has also stated that all of the properties would be deed restricted. 8 as attainable, the other 4 half acres as workforce housing. Again, racing too fast. Isn't it irresponsible to represent the public who elected you to read and to understand all of this? A continuance is the only answer. What would a decision made this evening look like to the public? Is it not common practice for people to sign legal documents without reading it is not common practice to sign legal documents without reading and understanding them. Please listen to the people. Landscape, HOA, detention or retention basin are questionable community benefits which also affect the less dense homes. A cul-de-sac that is not agreed to in the comp plan, I'm
We'll
right at
have
the
to
end.
conclude.
I am concluding. Everyone refers to the comp plan, and that's why this was supposedly approved. Cul-de-sacs are not approved in the comp plan, nor is a suburban estate zoning district, which does not exist in the code. These lots are less than half acre per the aspirational comp plan. Zoning exists for a reason. Rezoning is not a privilege. Would everyone in the audience who is in opposition please raise your
No,
hand? No?
I can't have a
Okay.
show of that. That's
Okay.
inappropriate for our decorum rules. So,
I am sorry that I even asked. Thank you.
Mr. Hornbeck Moulton, you have the opportunity to rebut and reply to the various items that were raised. Mr. Hornbeck, you can go first.
I have nothing to add. Happy to answer any questions from the board.
Director Moulton, any additional comments? Town Board, I'll open it to questions from you.
A couple of things. As much as I want to hear from the community, I have to tell you that when you rush through it at the end, I don't hear any of it because it's going so fast, it's not effective. So I would support the mayor in cutting off the microphone at 3 minutes. I think it's respectful to others. I think it's respectful to the format that we have. I think if we're consistent about it, it's fair. So I want to put that out there. I'm not saying I don't want to hear from you. I want you to practice 3 minutes before you get here. If it's not enough, let's talk about changing the limits. But please be respectful to the rest of the community as you share your comments because they're not effective. With regard to this issue, can you address technical concerns that were raised by several speakers tonight that have also been in conversation over the last, since we've been talking about this, regarding stormwater and the technical plan or what are the specs on protecting downstream properties from stormwater with this project?
I will ask Town Engineer Whitwer to address those questions.
Good evening. Great question, Trustee Eigel. So the requirements for any subdivision development are basically to have the applicant's consultant model the existing flows for that area under today's existing conditions. Currently, and we look at 10-year events and 100-year design storm events. So currently, existing conditions on that property, the 100-year event releases about 12.6 cubic feet per second off of the entire site. The subdivision proposed development is required to have a lesser rate than that after proposed developed conditions. So fully developed, street is in place, all the houses are built, sidewalk, trail, curb and gutter, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Proposed discharge from this property will be 11.3 CFS. So slightly, 90% of what's currently released. So the detention basin will catch a certain percentage of the property, not 100%. There are bypass areas, as was mentioned tonight. Some of the lots will bypass and drain directly to the ditch system that will then go through that 18-inch culvert underneath Peakview and discharge towards Twin Drive. There are some areas that will discharge that way without hitting the detention basin. However, in cumulative for the entire property, the detention basin holds back a much higher flow rate and rainfall amount than what's being released. So overall, there is a smaller release rate coming from this development after proposed conditions than there currently is today.
With all of the improvements in the pavement and the impervious ground, and there's going to be less water flow off the property after development than there is today.
That is correct. And that is a requirement. So those are calculations that the Public Works Department Engineering Division will review and ensure that those calculations are accurate and that they were performed under current requirements. And we verify the validity of that and review those calculations.
Mother Nature is wild and hard to control. So I would anticipate there may be some things that escape that. One of the speakers asked the question, who is responsible if there is an issue that is created, the way I heard it, if there's an issue created by the development of this property, who takes responsibility for that and what's the recourse?
Well, I don't want to speculate on what those issues might be.
Water flow and stormwater is what was
If we're
raised.
looking at stormwater, acts of God are one thing. We look at, as I mentioned, the 100-year event. So if we can look at a storm that comes through and we have a measurement of what that rainfall was within a time period, 24 hours, and we can confirm that that rainfall event was less than a 100-year event, then we would look at how the system responded and how it handled that event.
And the town would then take the responsibility for managing that water if it doesn't do what you are predicting through engineering.
That is correct.
Okay. I have another question, and this may be for you. I think we're done with this. We refer a lot to the wildlife map. Every project in town impacts deer and elk. What's the value of that wildlife map when it calls out this area being a high deer area and a high, I can't remember the exact terms, high deer area, and it's so close to being a high elk area? Well, so what? What impact does that have on a development if it falls in that area of that map?
Yeah, Trustee Eigel, there's, I believe, 3 things in the development code that apply for any development within one of those identified areas, concerning fencing, lighting, and use of native landscaping.
So the existence of 12 houses in a wildlife path, is that considered an impact on wildlife?
The code doesn't.
There's no, there's a spec on the density of buildings. Would that be accurate?
The code doesn't really speak to that. This project was referred to CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Trying to summarize their comments, I believe they were essentially that given the built-up nature of the surrounding area, that this development wouldn't have any more impact than exists in the area today.
Is that an opinion that they provided in writing to you? I don't remember seeing it, but there was a lot of information here.
Yes, it was a formal written response.
Okay.
I don't believe it's included in the packet.
Okay. I would like to see it. I'd like to see what the language is because it's not going to be an impact just on this project, but on future projects, the issue comes up all the time. And the final question that I had was on my short list that one of the speakers raised. The deed restrictions are not in place. There are some details that feel out of order, and I wonder if maybe Attorney Kramer is our best bet on addressing the order of business here. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I have felt that before on other issues, so I'm very sensitive to that and want to be cautious that we don't do that with this project.
Trustee Eigel, the deed restriction is now in place. It is fully executed and effective.
Okay. Okay. Gosh, I think that's all the questions that I have.
Trustee Brown.
Yes, I have kind of more questions about the drainage issues. So, I mean, come on up. It seems counterintuitive that you would develop 12 lots like this and not increase the runoff to such a degree that it would affect downstream drainage. And that essentially what I'm hearing is that the retention pond itself mitigates the problem to such an extent that that is the result. Is that right?
That's correct. The overall runoff from the proposed development would increase above what is currently there, but because of the detention basin, it's attenuated and it's held back. and then there is a release rate, a structure within that detention basin that controls how much water is released. And that is why the overall net discharge from the site is less than what is there now, or
Now,
will be less.
If you had a 10-inch rain, however,
That's an act of God, yes.
definitely an act of God, you know, and would the detention pond make much difference in that setting with a huge, enormous rain like the floods we had in 2013, for instance?
Overall, no. Initially, yes. You know,
Okay.
until that 100-year limit is reached, it would hold back that rainfall
Okay.
amount
So
until
it's all
that
based on the
100-year.
100-foot flood.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and the other question, this may be for Paul, is the curb and gutter integrated in some way with this issue? Does that help in terms of the drainage?
No, the curb and gutter is part of the conveyance system, but it really only serves the runoff that's hitting one lane of Peakview Drive. So most of the runoff from within the developed site will not go through the curb and gutter on Peakview.
So it's really more designed to prevent deterioration of the roadway, right?
Deterioration of the roadway, easier maintenance, less maintenance costs for staff in the future, correct?
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Trustee Lancaster.
Yeah, get back up. I think Mark and Bill pretty much asked the question I was gonna ask, but, I think you said that we will check those numbers on the drainage, or that we have checked the numbers the drainage calculations and the release calculations. We have done that, or we will with the final plat?
We have a preliminary drainage report right now, which has been reviewed and verified, but there are still minor modifications to come, and a final drainage report, which will again be reviewed.
So it'll be reviewed again by our staff. We don't just depend on the applicants
Correct.
there as well. Okay. I think that answers my question. Thank you.
Trustee Youngland.
I think, I'm not sure who this question would be directed to. One of the members of the public mentioned that all the lots were deed restricted at one point. I don't recall it that way. Could you speak to that?
Trustee Youngland, ordinance 0825, the condition in that ordinance only requires a deed restriction on the 8 lots that are meant to be attainable.
Okay. But was there ever going to be all of them?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. I didn't know if I had misunderstood before. I didn't think there were I thought there was only just 8 lots. Can you speak to that?
That's correct. I've never had it conveyed otherwise.
Okay. I think for now that you've been asked the other drainage questions, so I think I'm good for now.
Town clerk, have there been any communications received in regard to the application which are not in the board packet?
No additional comment has been received.
Thank you. Board of Trustees, are there additional comments?
I've got another question.
Trustee Brown.
So it's my understanding that one of the members of the Planning Commission wanted to put a bus stop along this property and maybe, add some pavement there for a bus stop. And that was not recommended by staff. And could you speak about that and why that disparity exists here?
Yeah, Trustee Brown, the application was referred to the school district for their comment. Had numerous emails exchanged with them to try and understand their needs, asking, is this proposal acceptable? Are you able to serve it with a school bus? Would you like to see any changes, et cetera? They responded that they will not serve cul-de-sacs if they don't have to. However, they have adequate stops in the area already, and they don't request any changes.
So does the school bus go up Peakview?
It does, yes.
It does, okay. And are there any stops along Peakview currently?
I believe so.
There are, okay. And a related question is that intersection with Devon Drive there, a sufficient area for a pullout for a bus, if that were to be made a bus stop, if you know, you may not even know.
I think there'd be significant safety concerns. However, Public Works does not select bus stops. That's the school district. If they wanted to communicate with us on safety issues.
Well, if we were to put a shuttle stop there, though, it wouldn't necessarily just be the school district. I know the town does not have a route that goes up there now, but it might in the future, for sure.
Potentially, that's likely, yes.
I'm Trustee Brown.
This was brought up by a constituent, so that's why I'm following through with it.
Okay, although the plat itself, which is what we're discussing,
Okay, so.
maybe a
but-
little tangential.
Right, but so would that be more appropriately dealt with in a development plan as opposed to the plat? And maybe that's what you're saying, and if that's so, we can defer this discussion.
Well, the future's a big place. All kind of things might happen. Shuttle stops, we might get 200 more
Well,
students
you
and have.
thought there were going to be flying cars too. you know?
Yeah, well, there will be eventually. But anyway.
Okay, well,
yeah.
so the basic answer is since the school district didn't want it, the town's not going to require it, right?
That's our perspective, yes.
Okay.
And I do want to clarify one thing. There will not be a development plan in the future with this. Correct.
Trustee Eigel.
I think this is one of those issues where half of the people are gonna love you and half the people are gonna hate you, and they warned me about this. And I sit here and I very often feel the weight of representation, and I'm learning the balance of law. And I think that has been valuable for me, and I hope for the community as well. But I think that compliance with the rules, it doesn't not automatically justify approval. I think that if it meets all the check boxes, that doesn't mean this is okay for our community. I think I have heard from a substantial number of residents, whether it be in a public forum or a public email or on the street at the grocery store. I think on this specific issue, there's a tremendous amount of public input that I have received because according to the information we've been presented, if you go through this area, this is going to change the neighborhood. This is going to change the way this small section feels. It's going to change, it'll be a change in conditions for the neighborhood. And I wonder if this changing conditions won't anchor another project that would say, well, there's a change in conditions. And that will snowball. And we talk about environmental concerns, about we are stewards of what's important to people who live here and visit here. The density of this project gives me pause, which is the politically correct way to say, I can't support it. And I wish it was a little bit different. I did not support the rezoning. I don't support this stage of the process because I don't think the project is right for the neighborhood. I also want it to be really clear of my responsibility in sitting here, and that is hearing what the community has to say. And we're not talking about a big general thing about the future of Estes Park, about wildlife and deer in my neighborhood, in my backyard. I think that this is going to have an impact on a lot of other things, but with specific regard to this proposal, this plan, and this resolution, I can't support it with good conscience sitting here tonight.
Trustee Youngland.
I would like to go back to the wildlife map. And so if I understand right, so it's staff that make the map and decide what corridors or more highly used by X animal or whatever. Can you just restate what you said? I was a little confused on that.
I will try. The wildlife maps we reference are from the 1996 comprehensive plan. I can only assume they were based on data from CPW, similar agencies, not at our staff level determining those maps. There was an effort around 2008 to update those maps and some habitat wildlife protection standards. That process got hung up and was never completed, so we're using the 96 maps.
Okay, but I'm sure Colorado Department of Wildlife was involved in that. It wasn't just at the staff level.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't hear that before, and I was like, I don't think so. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, also, I did find CPW's comments, if you'd like to hear those.
Yes.
It's one sentence, so I can read that. Due to the size of the project and the surrounding proximity being already developed, CPW does not have any comments regarding this project.
Thank you. I'll make one comment. I don't, now the vote on the rezoning, as I recall, was a supermajority. 2 of us voted against it, 5 voted in favor. I'm glad that the whole board is here tonight. I think more heads are better than less heads, so that's a good thing. In my tenure, this is one of the very controversial areas for various reasons. I think there's a long history, but I don't see any specific development as stating what the future happens in every single neighborhood. I think that's highly speculative and problematic to think that 2 years from now, every neighborhood is going to be rezoned and built with a much higher density. I feel we sometimes get into this slippery slope of philosophy that if we do this, that's the end. That's the end of Estes. I don't think it's the end of Estes. I again think back 150 years. Why did we build the first house? Why did we build the first 100? Why did we build the first 2,000? And the apartment, we have to take each of these and using the rules, using our best judgment, we were elected to this position to weigh all of that and make these decisions. One property, even though it has become an absolute focal point, is not the indication of the future of Estes. That's my comment. Any other comments, or at this point I'm going to
Just one little comment.
Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
Just one little comment about the wildlife. It comes up in everything. Everything we talk about the wildlife, and I think we all take that in account. We really do when we make these decisions. I can honestly say, in the 30 years that I've lived here, we have more wildlife now than we did 30 years ago, and we have more development now than we had 30 years ago. So I just don't see it affecting our wildlife viewing or anything else. We're surrounded by I just worked it out, 1.7 million acres around Estes Park that cannot ever be developed. Would it be healthy for the wildlife to be out in those acreage? Probably, but they actually choose to be a lot in our town, and they seem not to be all terribly affected by the developments that have happened. So if we just look at the number of wildlife that's here now and wildlife that was here 30 years ago, amount of developments happening, I just don't think the developments without fencing and everything else is really affecting our wildlife. If I just look at the numbers. So, thanks.
Trustee Brown.
Yeah, so I want to start by asking our town attorney what the standards are for approval or disapproval by this town board of a recommended preliminary plat submission.
Trustee Brown, if I have it right, and I think Senior Planner Hornbeck has it on the top of his head too, it's compliance with all the standards in the development code, which are generally objective quantitative standards.
Okay, so unless we reject the conclusion of staff with respect to any of those items, the requirements have been met, right?
Correct, Trustee Brown. The standards of review for a plat are pretty clear cut.
Okay, and is there anything comparable in the legislative arena here to what in the courts is known as jury nullification? We don't care what the law is. We're going to do what we think is right.
Trustee Brown, I'll say the same thing I say for every application. It all comes down to the review criteria. That's what's set by the board. That's the policy we set. That's the law we set. And that's what the board has to make its decisions by under the law.
Okay. So I just want to say that there is a balance of property rights at issue in any land use decision. And it's the property rights of the owner of the property and the property rights of adjacent owners, all of which need to be taken into account and balanced by a group such as this and the Planning Commission. What else? And you know, it's neither one way or another. Absolutely, that's why we can put conditions on approvals as we wish, generally. You know, what we're trying to do is balance those rights, and it just seems to me that the property owner's rights matter here, that it's not just the adjacent property owners at issue, and that to take away a property owner's right to do with what they want with their property should not be done lightly. It should be a matter of extreme public damage, you know, maybe health and safety issues, things like that. And I just don't see it here. I know that I've become a target about my support of some of these development things, but I want to tell another story, and that is that, you know, I've been in your shoes before, believe it or not. So when I bought my first property in West Des Moines, Iowa, there was a farm field right outside my door. And I, without thinking, thought there would always be a farm field there. But of course, it got developed. It got developed into more condos like mine. It's not the same situation. I'm not suggesting it is. But after those developments occurred, I realized it wasn't quite as bad as I feared. And there was plenty of farmland around to look around at anyway, just like there's plenty of beautiful vistas here. So I just think that we need to take into account the property owners' property rights and not just the community commotion around an issue. And as we talked about, that's why we have a process like we do for zoning and for platting, so that we have professionals in town government reviewing whether they meet the standards required by our development code. And if they do, they should be approved. If they don't, then we send them back for more work. But I just don't see here, frankly, what the reason is we would send it back for more work, given the issues about drainage and what we've talked about wildlife. It just doesn't seem that there's a justification there to me. So I will support this resolution.
All reports, statements, exhibits, and written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. This public hearing is closed. I will take a motion from the board.
I move to approve Resolution 89-25, Coyote Run Subdivision Second Filing Preliminary Plat.
Second.
Trustee Brown moved to approve the motion or move to accept the resolution. Trustee Youngland seconded. I voted against some of these density things, and couple of them at least, and for some others. Any other comments? We can go to a vote.
Once again, roll call, starting with Eigel.
Okay?
Nay.
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry. Aye.
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 The motion passes 6-1. We'll move forward to our first action item. Ordinance 1725, Platte River Power Authority amended and restated organic contract and amended electric power supply contract. This will be presented by Director Bergston.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. We spoke about this at the last board meeting briefly. This is an update to the contract between Longmont, Loveland, Fort Collins, and us, and our joint ownership of Platte River Power Authority. The additional contract that goes with this is an agreement that we will buy our electricity from Platte River.
Is this a public hearing?
No.
Mayor, it's an ordinance. Oftentimes, what ends up in the packet is a note that any ordinance is open for public hearing. So I'm not sure what's in your packet.
I have a complete page in the script for a public hearing related to this, but it is not. It's just an ordinance that we'll discuss, correct?
Correct, Mayor. It's only a public hearing in the sense that we take public comment on ordinances.
All good.
No problem. So, some work's been put into it to make sure that the language has been modernized. It's been around since 1975, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
I'll make pretty much the same comment that I did last time. Sitting on the board, the entire board of PRPA, the 4 mayors and the utility directors and administrators all support this. The great majority of changes, other than extension to the contract for the next period of time, are pretty much modernization of language. Now, I still, like I said last time, I think Estes is in a very favored spot. We're the smallest player, and we get an equal vote in that. And it's a powerful thing to have that. We could not afford a lot of the stuff that Platte River Power is able to develop because of the resources that they have, the virtual power plant and bringing in all those alternative sources of energy and other things like that. But there's many, many other examples. So I see this. I'll certainly be supporting it. I believe the Longmont City Council approved this a week or two ago. The other 2 town councils are in their same stage of deliberation as we are, and that's where we're at. And any other questions from the board? I will open it up for public comment if there are any public comments on this item. And I see none. I will therefore take a motion.
I move for the approval of ordinance 17-23.
25.
25, sorry. 25, the packet says 23, my bad.
I'll second that.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve ordinance 1725. Trustee Youngland seconded. Any further comments? Seeing none, let's vote, and I think we're yeah.
Somebody go knock on the door. Hello?
We will hold momentarily, but we'll stay on the air. And Director Bergston, I'll take this moment to thank you and your staff for the tremendous and ongoing work as we get into winter season, and
Yeah.
boy, this is coming fast, isn't it? I know your guys are out there. We have a vote of 6 in favor. I still want to get Lancaster appropriately on there, so we'll hold. But thank you for the summer. We got through that. We're waiting for a vote from Mr. Lancaster, and we'll move forward after that. And it seems the buttons are working, so, although,
Yeah, I was gonna knock on the door.
although yours, I think you'll just have to give yours vocally.
Verbally, yeah.
So,
We'll take a verbal vote.
Hi.
there you go.
Did you
Okay.
have any questions? Huh?
No, the written part was fine. That's
Thank
why I
you.
felt comfortable.
7-0, we're good. Thank you,
Thank you.
Director Bergston and your team. We'll move forward to action item 2, 9020, Resolution 9025, finding substantial compliance and initiating annexation proceedings for the Riverside Drive Townhomes annexation. And we have Planner Washam here.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Just a moment, please, while I get this pulled up. Thought I had at least an hour left before I'd get on here.
We will not hold efficiency against you.
Apologies, it says it's updating Microsoft 365 right now, so I'm not sure if it'd be a good time for a break for anyone, but.
It's an interesting night. Yeah. Moment of silence, Jason. So I think we've got a little update happening.
It's still spinning. Wait, here it goes. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so this is the resolution for finding substantial compliance and initiating annexation proceedings for the Riverside Drive townhomes. The owner applicant is Estes Park Housing Authority. Just a moment, I think I actually opened up several of these. Jeez.
Gonna have the most well-updated computer.
Okay, we are in good shape now. The purpose of this item, no, it's still not working right.
We do have emergency, Ed is in the back room.
Okay, all right, I got it now. I think I opened it several times when it
Right
was doing its thing. Okay, the purpose of this item is to determine substantial compliance and initiate annexation proceedings for the Riverside Drive townhomes annexation. The subject request is to annex a 2.6 acre parcel into town limits. The parcel is owned by Estes Park Housing Authority. The Housing Authority plans to develop 14 for-sale attainable townhomes that will be sold to the Estes Valley workforce. The address is 775 Riverside Drive, and here's a vicinity map showing the location. It is located toward the southwest side of town, just east of Manor RV Park, and adjacent to Tiny Town Cabins, Trout Haven, and Worldmark. Here's a map of the proposed annexation. The annexation process is governed by the Municipal Annexation Act, which is codified in Colorado Revised Statutes 31-12-101 and requires 4 steps in the annexation process. The first step is referral to town board. The memo in your packet serves as staff's communication to town board. The next step is the substantial compliance resolution, and that's what we're here for today. If the substantial compliance resolution is approved, consideration of the eligibility resolution will be scheduled for October 28th, 2025. During that meeting, town board determines whether the subject property is eligible for annexation under the act. The hearing must be scheduled 30 to 60 days from today. There are other noticing requirements that must occur. This includes publishing the notice in the newspaper for 4 consecutive weeks, starting at least 30 days in advance of the hearing. And at least 25 days before the hearing, the notice must be also sent through registered mail to Board of County Commissioners, County Attorney, and affected districts. Step 4 is the public hearing that involves the ordinance for annexation and potentially the ordinance to establish zoning. To clarify substantial compliance and eligibility determine whether the parcel can be annexed, this final step determines whether a parcel will be annexed. This public hearing is when staff, along with the applicant, will provide a much more detailed presentation and analysis of the annexation and proposed future development. Right now, the details provided by the applicant are in the conceptual stage and are subject to change during the development review process. So moving back to the substantial compliance resolution, for the petition to be in the prescribed form, it must have signatures and addresses of the property owners, identify the subject property with a legal description, request that the municipality approve the annexation, claim that the proposed annexation is a benefit to the annexing municipality, and include a map of the area to be annexed showing contiguous boundary of the property to the municipality. Staff has completed a review of the annexation petition and finds that the annexation petition meets the criteria of the Act. Here are some advantages and disadvantages. Determining substantial compliance is consistent with the requirements of Section 30, Article 2 of the Colorado Constitution, and with the Colorado Revised Statutes. There aren't any known disadvantages of determining substantial compliance, nor is there an impact to the town budget. At the time of this writing, no public comments have been received. However, if the annexation proceeds through the process, we do expect that public interest may increase. Here are some sample motions. Let me know if you have any questions. Also, we have Peter Levine, Director of Real Estate Development with Housing Authority here as well.
Well, thanks for this level of public interest. If Peakview is a 13 on a scale of 10, where does medium fall? Is there any public comment on this particular item? Seeing none, board, you have questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 90-25.
A second.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve this resolution. Mayor Pro Tem Sinek seconded, and we can vote. Hey, there you go. And it passes. So your presentation was effective. Thank you, Kara. We will move forward to our last item on our agenda. Report and discussion item reviewing policy 208, naming of town parks, open spaces, and facilities. And I don't need this because I already have town hall named after me, so we're all good. Yeah. Anyway.
I think Travis is gunning for that one.
Management Analyst Simpson.
Good evening. Okay. Oh, that is not great. Okay.
There you go. Woo.
Hey. All right, this
Vertigo.
mouse is very sensitive. Okay, good evening. I will be discussing policy 208, naming of town-owned parks, open spaces, and facilities. You'll notice this memo looks a little different from the other items in your packet because it is a study session memo. This was a study session item that got kicked to town board for scheduling purposes. So the purpose of this item is discussion of proposed updates to policy 208. Staff is requesting direction from the board regarding the proposed updates to the policy as follows. First, is the board interested in expanding the naming criteria, whether generally or more specifically? This was brought about by a request, an informal request from the Estes Park Sister Cities Association, requesting that the town rename the open space at the northeast corner of the Moraine and Riverside Roundabout to Monteverde Park. Our current naming criteria does not allow for that. So staff is seeking feedback from the board about the level of interest in broadening that criteria. So I'll stop there for any discussion.
So I feel like I can answer those questions for you right away. I think that I would not explore changing our naming rights.
Okay.
I would recommend finding another way to symbolize our connection with Monteverde. I think it's a great idea, a place in Estes Park that they could point to and say, yeah, we're related. But I think that changing renaming policies really opens up a lot because we're behind this idea. Not a bad idea to make this connection. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity here for someone who wants to go this path and rename a physical part of Estes Park. It's one of those things where it doesn't seem broken to me, so I wouldn't fix it. And I would support a memorial or some kind of an indicator, a statue or something that would say we're connected.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Well, as the liaison to the sister cities, a little back history, I think this is a very common thing within the sister cities is to have parks designated as a name as their sister city, whoever that might be or wherever that might be. So this isn't just something they thought of. The other thing is they are also going to have a peace pole and an informative sign being made. Actually, I think they're hoping to have it dedicated on the 3rd of October, and it's going to be over in that area. And so they thought it would be an appropriate place then to just name the park Monteverde Park. And that way it ties in with what they're doing as far as the peace bowl and the interpretive sign. I can see as far as number 1, I'm interested in expanding it, not just for this purpose, but I think there is caution in how we go about and what we accept.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's some, things that we can do to change and maybe accept some things that maybe the strict guidelines we currently have would not let something like this. This is a representative. Represents our town. This doesn't just represent another organization. Sister Cities is part of our community and our town. So I would be in favor of expanding. I think we need to do that carefully. But I am in favor of this Monteverde Park. I think it fits right in, and I would like to see some updates made. So I think that's kind of answers the questions there.
I suppose without even modifying the naming criteria policy, the board could make one-off exception. Is that correct, or would that be problematic?
Mayor, I guess it's not really a legal question because our policies aren't legally binding, but typically we think of our policies as encompassing the whole spectrum of possibility. And if there's an ability to make an exception, usually that's called out in the policy.
And I might have missed this in the conversation. Does Monte Verde have an Estes Park?
I believe, and that's what I was trying to recall when we were there, because I know they have a lot of little pocket parks. I mean, that's what they have. They have tons of park. They believe in outdoor space for children to play, and they feel that that's a good thing. I believe they do, but don't quote me 100%. Maybe Suzanne knows, because I don't know if they've worked.
I can find out.
Jason, I know they've been working with trying to get this peace pole and interpretive sign. I know Mayor has donated some money for the interpretive sign, I believe, right? So it's not an uncommon thing. I believe they do, but I wouldn't say for certain.
Okay, and not that makes
I
a
can
big difference,
text
but
real quick.
Estes Park, you know.
What time is it? Oh, it's about the same time. Trustee Brown.
Oh, my God. Now what was I going to ask? Yeah, help us. And this is my fault. I didn't read the policy 208 before this meeting. Could you explain why it doesn't meet the current naming requirement?
Yeah, I can pull that up. Okay. So right now, the current naming criteria is specific purpose of the facility, geographic location, prominent geographic feature or local reference point, adjoining subdivision or community, historical feature, a deceased individual, or an individual or group via a donation or sponsorship agreement.
Okay, so is it not possible that planting a peace pole in this would be a historical event that we could somehow recognize as a historical feature? I guess that's an interpretive issue, but I think I agree with Trustee Youngland that changing the criteria for something like this makes perfect sense. This is an entity in which we have a mutual relationship, another community. It's not honoring any individual. You know, it strikes me as an appropriate use of our naming rights, and so I would be in favor of going forward with that.
Trustee Lancaster, I'm kind of keeping arithmetic in my head.
I'm fine with making change, although I would look at the other one. Monteverde is a geographic location. By its own definition,
Yeah.
it's not but this doesn't say a geographic location adjacent to the property or anything
Right.
else. But
Right.
by definition, a town is a geographic location.
That is correct.
I did have a question, though. You know, you open up the can of worms.
Yeah.
Down in the existing policy, noticing of Google. What is it? B Roman numeral 4. It's almost at the very end.
Here we go.
Keep going.
Oh, we've got to go down to E, yeah.
Keep going. There we go.
Yep.
I think that's too narrow. If we ever do adjust it, it shouldn't just be Google. There's MapQuest, there's Apple Maps, and that's so specific to one particular thing. Should be something more general that we should update on any online or other map sources, not just Google. Because there are differences. There's one of them is either Apple Maps or Google still has Jellystone Park just up the street from me on Black Canyon Drive. And I think it's because, and this has been like 10 years, the owner used to live there. And somehow it got put in there, and that's where it says Jellystone is. So. But the other ones don't have it. It's just one of them. Anyway, that was just something that stuck out to me. when I
Thank
saw
you.
that.
Yep, we can make that update also.
But I'm fine with making the adjustments, or we just call it a geographic location and we're in compliance.
Well, and we, actually, we go back to that list thing. I mean, local reference point. I mean, if we're putting a peace pole there,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that the local reference point? I mean, without changing the whole thing, you know, if we're putting a peace pole that's for Monteverde, isn't that? I mean, I just kind of look at it, as I don't think changing the whole thing is, you know, worth it, but if you got a peace pole there and peace poles for Monteverde.
It could be as simple as adding one more item that gives the board discretion for these sort of unique requests that come up that don't fit into any of these categories.
I don't
If
know,
there was-
I'm seeing it like some of the others, that you've got 2 or 3 items that have sufficient flexibility.
Okay.
Be able to play with that, Trustee Youngland.
I know that was a discussion when they went to the town to see where they would be able to put these items. Because right now, the only place that is, anybody can find anything about Monteverde is in a corner in the Museum of Estes Park. That's it. So, and Sister Cities is growing, I mean, all the towns have them, multiple, actually, multiple cities that they have a sister city, you know, relationship with. And so when the town, you know, came up with this idea and Sister Cities Board liked that, they thought, well, that makes sense to have the park named that because then it ties in with what they're putting there, the peace pole and things like that. Cinda did get back to me and she goes, I don't think they do. She can send a email out to Monteverde, but she's not aware of one at this time. So anyway.
And would there be a possibility, so if we added another naming criteria, number 8, either a supermajority or even a unanimous decision by the board decision, I mean, and I can't think of anything right now, but maybe there was a local hero that saved Estes Park or whatever, you know, Gillette back in the, you know, in the days, and the whole board decided they want to rename something. I mean, I just don't see that would be a problem if you know, if there's a super, I wouldn't say just a majority, but maybe a super majority or a unanimous. Can you say that? And that it's, you know, I'll leave that to Kramer.
Sure, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, I don't think there are any legal requirements binding what the town can do in this policy. So something like that could be written into the policy.
I think we've identified 2 places that really renaming that or naming it Monteverde Park really can work. So I think if this discussion needs to go on about looking at future, you know, changes to it, I think we could do that. But I think I feel like it could fit in to the existing policy currently. So I would like to just see it be accepted due to those two conclusions that we came up with within the current policy. Anyway, to expedite their request.
Bill.
So I support renaming the park, or I guess naming the park in the first place. But I do think it would be better, I agree with Marie, that it would be better to modify the policy to give us kind of an overall arching way to do this without trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, or is that the right one, or is it a round peg into a square hole? I'm not sure, but I guess it doesn't work either way, does it? So I favor that approach.
Okay.
I think it's a round peg into an elliptical hole. It just looks to me like there's plenty of flexibility. But, certainly go with the consensus of the board. Do you have sufficient information?
On this item, yes. One more change to the policy that was made, and since we have the policy up, I can actually just scroll down to that. So many of the updates to the policy were to address the sunsetting of the Parks Advisory Board, which was the primary body that processed any of these requests. So we removed that as well as streamlined the overall process. So instead of going to the town clerk and the town administrator and to you, the town administrator's office will just process these. That's our recommendation. So we would handle both the public side and the administrative side. So looking for feedback on if that is acceptable to the board.
Makes sense to me.
Great.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, certainly the last half hour. There being no other business to transact, this town board meeting is adjourned.
Oh, what did he bet?
What happened?